My high school teacher told us a story about his friend living in rural Arkansas. He, the friend, meets a girl at the Walmart register. They talk and hit it off pretty well. She is a nice religious girl, exactly like the one he wanted to be with. They exchange numbers, he calls. They have long conversations deep into the night. They go on dates. She is a genuinely nice girl. She ended every phone conversation with a prayer, "Thank our Father," or something like that. The guy is completely smitten. She finally calls him to come to her house at 7:30 one Saturday night. She tells him to come there at exactly 7:30 and not a minute later. She says that if he is even a minute late, she will break up with him. The guy was a little league baseball coach and had a game on that day. The game was supposed to end a few hours before that, so he accepted the offer. On the day of the game went into overtime, or whatever you call it in baseball. It went on longer than expected. The guy was getting a little nervous, but he still had plenty of time. The game ended a little late, but 3 of the kids' parents hadn't arrived yet, and he had to drop them off home. Panicking, he really doesn't want to miss his chance with the nice girl, tells him to hop into the car and speeds off. After quickly dropping off the first 2 kids, he decides the 3rd kid's house is too far off, so he leaves them on the road and begs him to go walk home. Yeah, very douche move, I know. He rushes home, showers, gets dressed in a hurry, and tries to go to the girl's home ASAP. He arrives at her house at 7:35, 5 minutes late. A woman in her mid-40s comes out and tells him Clarice, the nice girl who called him over, said you are late and wants you to go away. Dejected, he goes back home. A few days, or rather the next day I think. Later he sees the local news. He sees the house and it looks familiar. It is the girl's house. The police are leading a handcuffed woman out of the house. It is the 40-year-old woman that had spoken to him earlier. Behind is the girl he was dating. He was shocked that the headline read, "Child Kidnappers," or something like that. He expected the police to visit him soon as well, because he was dating the girl. As expected, a police officer comes to his house and asks if he is. The guy is nervous, but knows his rights. He asks if he should get a lawyer or not. The policeman tells him that he is not legally allowed to tell him what happened, but felt a moral obligation. This is where the story gets creepy. The policeman says the women arrested were engaging in human sacrifice. In their house they found the missing children's remains. There was blood all over the walls and jars of hearts labelled with the names of the missing kids. There was an empty jar that had the dude's name on it. Turns out, the girl invited him on a date at her house at 7:30 to kill him in a ritual human sacrifice. The ritual apparently had to be executed with precise timing. His being late saved him from being ritually sacrificed. Needless to say, there are some crazy cults in rural Arkansas. Driving home on a storm day, I see that a side road off the local golf course is blocked off by flashing barricades. I also spy a Mercedes parked past the barricades, with its hazards on. I stop and walk up to the car to see if they need help. I'm an EMT. I shine my light in the back seat to see a man slumped over, apparently asleep. Thinking I've got a few drunks, I move up to the driver window and rap on the glass and shine my light in. The driver is sitting bolt upright, unmoving, staring straight ahead. My window rapping or light doesn't cause him to blink, flinch, or move. I look over and the passenger is slumped forward onto the dash. This begins to creep me out. I call down to the sheriff's station and request a code 2, no lights, sirens, unit up to my location to help me check them out. Doors are locked. While on the phone, I walk back to my truck to get my go bag. As I'm on the phone with dispatch, she asks me to get a license number for the car, just as the PG&E, power company, cherry picker truck comes rumbling down from the closed road. I moved to go around the truck to get the plate number, and the car is gone. I talked to the driver of the truck, and he said there was an 80-foot tree down across the road, and that he didn't think it'd be open for a day or so. So the question is, the hell did the car go? Tree out one way, barricades down the other. It's kept me a bit unsettled when stopping at accidents since then. When I was a kid, we moved into a new house. My earliest memory was that my brother's room was always cold, but I never thought anything of it. When I got older, I moved into that room, but it wasn't cold anymore. I asked my mum why the room was so cold, and she told me that when we first moved in, my sister actually took that room and she had a lot of nightmares, and when she woke up there was bruises up her legs and stomach. My mum would also get nightmares of a woman telling her to leave the house. She did a ritual or something and everything stopped, including the room not being cold no more. A few years later, my sister was getting married. My grandma and 3 female cousins I never met before came to stay at our place. My mum told me that grandma did not like staying in our place because she would always get sick when she visited. My 3 cousins stayed in my sister's room, and after the second night they were here, they were really scared and said that someone was trying to open their door. They kept seeing the doorknob jiggle, and when they opened it, no one was there. They came to my room and asked if they can sleep in there, and I thought they were trying to scare me, but I played along. I slept on the floor and they took my bunk bed, and suddenly I hear the washer turn on. The washer room was next to my room, and I went out there and turned it off. Then I went back to my room, and outside my door I hear chains dragging across the room, and when I opened the door, no one was there. This really freaked me out because for all the years I lived here, nothing ever happened. I eventually fell asleep. The next morning I went to my sister's room to check things out because I was curious. When I opened the door I saw 2 things that freaked me out. There was these faint black marks on the ceiling, like footprints. The window was open. What's so scary about the window being open? Someone installed the second glass of the windows wrong, so it could only be open from the outside. We lived on the 2nd floor, and it was impossible to open unless you had a ladder. It freaked me out for a while, and then everyone left. Nothing weird happened. I talked to my mum about it, and afterwards, she said that the house doesn't like new people and females. This explained why I never saw or experienced anything except for the cold room, and why my grandma always got sick. After that, once in a while when I was sleeping, I would sometimes hear a baby crying. I assumed it was my neighbour's baby, but never thought anything of it. When we moved out, my mum forced me to go say bye to all our neighbours, even if I never talked to them. When I said bye to the family next door that had the baby crying, I asked how the baby was doing, and they said they don't have a baby. About 7 years after I moved away from the house, I went back to visit. When I went back to my room, it had changed a lot, and it was bigger. I asked the current owner about why it was bigger, and they said that the closet that used to be in my room had a hidden space behind it, making the closet twice the size. I asked them if they found anything in there, and they said no. I don't know if they had anything to do with all the weird stuff I saw, but it was just another weird thing I learned about the house years later. About a year and a half ago, my best friend of 15 plus years and I took a trip to my family farm at night, after getting out of our second shift job. It was a nice, clear, crisp, early fall night in Michigan. We were sitting there, just chit-chatting away, and watching the night sky, when he asked a very peculiar question. He said, "This place has always had a strange feel to it, almost like you're being watched. Did something happen here? Something bad, I mean." I just laughed a little and replied that I only knew the stories that my father told me. I told him about how when my great-grandpa purchased the farm in the early 30s, that it was a big family project to keep it up and running. Relatives would come and help with the chores, and in exchange be able to hunt the land for food. My great-grandpa had a cousin that came over one day, helped out, and asked if he could go out later that night to do some coon hunting. He, of course, got permission and set out shortly after sundown. The next morning, my great-grandpa noticed that his vehicle was still out in the driveway, even though he should have left hours before. It was still dark out, but my great-grandpa knew the area of the land he would be hunting, and set off in that direction. He walked back towards the back pasture field, and as he came around the bend, he hollered my cousin's name. He heard a strange yet familiar voice answer him back. He said that the voice chilled him to the bone, that something wasn't quite right about it. So he called out again, and this time, the voice was for sure not his cousin, but almost like a growl imitating his voice. He said he hightailed it out of there, never looking back. When the sun came up, he took a big group of relatives and farmhands to look for him. They found his gun, loaded but not fired, his hat, which was covered in a brown liquid spattering, and that was all. My great-grandpa looked for any signs of him for over 60 years. I was 14 and my family had just moved to a big kind of rundown farmhouse that was kind of creepy, but cheap to rent. The closest neighbours were pretty far away, and a cornfield surrounded most of our property. One night, around 2 a.m, I woke up to the light in the hallway going on. I'm a really light sleeper. A few minutes later, my dog starts whining outside my door and scratching to be let in. I get up and let him in, and he crawls under my bed to sleep. He does this sometimes, but it never woken me up to be let in before. I was a little weirded out, but also pretty tired, so fell back asleep without much thought. I wake up again a little while later to my bedroom door creaking. I see fingers wrapped around the side of the door as it is being slowly pushed open. In a half-asleep kind of stupor, I ask who it is, and a man clearly trying to imitate a woman assures me that he is my mother, just checking on me. I keep saying, No, you're not. You don't sound like my mother. And he kept assuring me that he is. I obviously am not fully awake yet, or I would have noticed how creepy and weird this exchange was. Suddenly, the door starts being pushed even further open, and the hand pushes through the door, followed by an arm, and I realise the person is coming into my room. I start freaking out and screaming when I realise what is happening. My dog jumps out from under my bed and lunges at the door, causing the person to shut it quickly, and not allowing me to see his face or anything at all. By this time, my mum has woken up from my screaming and starts yelling to me, asking if I'm okay. She comes down the hall to my room and says that she saw a big figure with stockings on his head, standing outside my door. My mum started screaming then too, and the person ran down the back staircase of our house, which had a door and simply looked like a closet. So he had prior knowledge of its existence apparently, or they wanted to hide in a closet, and then ran out the back door into the cornfield. Nothing in my house was stolen, and there's no evidence that the person that had broken in wanted anything other than come into my room. I don't think I have been the same since this happened, and I still feel incredibly anxious even thinking about it.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or of any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.